Hey everybody, ContractLancer here. Today we're going to be discussing the two kinds of contract developers that you can be. And today, in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly which one of them makes more money than the other so that you can plan out exactly which one you want to be. But there are some caveats there as always. But before we get into that, please like and subscribe after the break. Now, before I get into the money stuff, I gotta tell you exactly what these two contractors are. And these two contractors are going to be your mercenary types and your negotiators. So let's start with the mercenaries. The mercenary type of contractor are going to be those who are simply there to fill the role. Now, the difference between them and an employee is not very much, except for the fact that they are contractors and that they have a different tax status, and they usually are paid much more than the employees. Now, there are several reasons why. One of the reasons is because usually contractors get a better rate due to the fact that they come from a third party. So third parties typically handle the rates of the contractors, and you can negotiate with them to get a better range than employees will. Another thing is that since you're handling your own taxes, the corporation does not have that burden upon them, and you get more money out of it. And you can make more money if you handle your taxes correctly through LLC, C2C, however it might be. Another thing is that according to this Forbes article, I think I've mentioned this before, that if you stay in your job for longer than 2 years, you're more likely going to be paid 50% less than someone who does not do that. Now, a contractor is naturally going to be moving around jobs, going to be moving around projects more often than their employee counterparts, who typically will stay with the corporation for a lot longer. This will have a natural effect of increasing your potential salary, thereby you can negotiate for higher and higher sums. So that's what I'm saying. So a mercenary kind is basically just an employee who fills a role, but is a very highly paid role filler. You also have the benefit of having a lot of experience on your resume and have it not look very bad. Now, typically, the old way of thinking about having a job is that if you move around too much, companies will look at it like, it's kind of weird. But as a contract developer, that is par for the course and is usually expected. In fact, a corporation will look more highly on you for having more and more products under your belt because they see that you have more and more experience and that you are basically good for your word and you are willing to stay at a project for X amount of time. As long as you explain to them that way, then you should be fine. But that is what a mercenary kind is. Let me get into the other one right now. The second kind is a little bit more complicated, but these are the ones I deem the negotiators. Now, the negotiators are those who work on top of the project food chain. They're not just role fillers like the people who actually just develop the code, but they are usually the ones who are in the more management positions, the architects, the ones who handle project teams. Now, I think there are two varieties here. One variety is a negotiator has their own team and then the company hires them for that team, or in other cases, the company will hire the solo developer to work as the management for the team that they supply to them. What does this mean? It means that as a negotiator, you have a lot of experience and most of it is in development, but you've moved into a higher role, a management role, so you get paid even more so and you have more responsibilities to do so. The difference between the mercenary kind versus the negotiator kinds is that the negotiators usually are in charge of these projects and have a lot of leeway on how to do them. At the same time, they have a lot more responsibilities. So that is reflected in the pay. So let's get down to the brass tacks. How much do the mercenary contractors make versus the negotiator kinds of contractors make? Well, according to Glassdoor, software engineers in general make roughly around $107,000 a year. That's a pretty good salary. However, I would tell you that employees probably make a little bit less than that and contractors make a little bit more than that. In fact, I say that contractors can make 50% more than that on average only because of what that Forbes article said about if you move around in your job, you are expected to have a 50% greater potential for that salary. So just to be safe, I'm going to say 120 to 150 range. That could be a good average for a contractor with years and tech stack in comparison to, let's say, an employee with the same years, but they remain in one company. That's going to be for the mercenary class. I'm going to get into the negotiators right now. So to get information on the negotiator class contractors, I had to basically talk to one of them, and I did. I found one on the Discord that I'm on, and they're very helpful. In fact, they told me about their experience. So I should have their message on screen. We had a very long conversation, and this is just snippets of that conversation. So just to give you some context, we were just discussing about his experience. This piece of experience in this message, he says, after his initial contract expired, he went for another contract for another company called, and then he was making over $200 an hour. So that's what he meant by, if you read it on screen, it says $200, but that's $200 an hour. So he's making $30,000 a month on this contract for being an architect, a director for this particular project. Now, if that doesn't tell you how much you could possibly make if you are at the higher levels, it's crazy. $30,000 a month for, being a negotiator class contractor is crazy enough as it is. It blew my mind when I heard it. Now, that means that I'm not a negotiator class contractor. I'm a more mercenary kind of more of a role filler. So that's where I kind of put myself in. But I'm going to get into one more comparison between the mercenary class contractors and negotiators based on what this individual said to me. So if you want to compare it between the mercenary contractor and the negotiator class, there's another thing you have to consider. That is the role of responsibility in your job. So as a role filler, as a mercenary class, you get paid a lot, but you don't have as much responsibility. You just have to do your job, be a code monkey in a sense. But when you're the director of engineering, as Dowwise was for this very same company, I'm going to put the next snippet on screen. He mentions how much work it was and how when he did become full-time because he chose to take the opportunity after the contract was over, that they abused him, they abused his time, they basically didn't give him a good work-life balance. That's only happened after the contract was over and when he was a full-time employee, so that they only paid him by salary and not by hour. So that happens. However, I think this highlights the amount of stress and the amount of responsibility you will have if you go into this negotiator class role. So to answer the question that I put in the beginning of the video, negotiator class makes the most amount of money on average compared to contractors, mercenary class developers. However, they also have the most responsibility because they are in charge of projects usually or have their own team to manage. So in order to get to that point, you already have to have had experience in a lot of it, enough for that a corporation could consider you for this particular role and then get paid the big bucks, the big old money bags, Scrooge McDuckian amounts of money. So what does that mean for us plebes out there? For those of us trying to struggle on and try to get to a point where we can make six figures or even get to even higher six figures. The way that I would approach this is be a contract developer if you want, or be an employee. First, you need just the experience. If you don't have that, you need the experience. Then, if you want to take the risk and be a contract developer because there are risks involved, that is a fast way of getting the bigger and bigger bucks so you can negotiate better for the next project you do, and you will not suffer the 50% penalty that apparently people who have loyalty to their corporations have. I don't understand it really, but apparently if you stay with a corporation for longer than 2 years, you are penalized for it by not having your potential earnings get penalized by 50%, which is a very high penalty, and just don't do that. Being a contractor affords you the flexibility and does not give you the stigma of being, a job hopper or whatever, because it is basically what you do. It is expected that you work project by project or by some amount of time for your contract, so it doesn't look bad on your resume. After you have some experience, you could finally move into that negotiator class, because this individual actually had a lot of experience before he became a full-fledged, director of engineering or something. And in order to do that, you have to have a very impressive resume and a very impressive, just the amount of money someone was willing to pay you beforehand has to be impressive as well. So you basically have to prove your worth in that sense. And the only way to do that is by moving up in the world and moving your salary up and up. If you want to ever get to those, sweet $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 salaries, just remember, expect that the higher you make, the more responsibilities on your shoulders and the more stress you might have and the harder your workplace balance is going to be. But don't worry, Dowwise had a happy ending in the end. He worked for Microsoft or something, and he has a better work-life balance there, even though he makes slightly less. So, but don't cry for him. He still makes way more than anyone of us. So, you know what I mean? He's crying himself to the bank. But anyways, that is my explanation between the two types of contractors, and that you should decide which path you should take. And if you want to take the most optimized path, and if you are really, really ambitious, go for, whatever path gives you the most experience, which would be the contractor path, because that's a lot easier to get into, and then move into the negotiator path once you have experience. That is my advice to you, and good luck to all of you out there who want to do contracting and want to be successful in it. I wish you luck, and I hope that this video was very informative to you. If you you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, please like and subscribe to me. Put it in the comments. And if you want my 15-minute free consultation, go to my website. It's in the description below. And thank you very much. Please like and subscribe one more time. ContractLancer out.